We're going to take a break, but when we come back, Republican Congressman Aaron Schock joins me to talk about those tax cuts. Plus, he's calling to end that rule that requires Olympic athletes to pay taxes. We'll talk with the congressman after the break. Well, going for the gold can be expensive for America's Olympic athletes. Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian of all time, and all other U.S. medalists have to pay taxes on their medals and the cash bonuses that go with them. The U.S. Olympic Committee awards bronze medalists $10,000 at a 35% tax rate. So the IRS will take $3,500. Silver medalists will have to pay back $5,250 out of their $15,000 prize. Gold medalists pay $8,750 of their $25,000 bonus. Well, Illinois Republican Congressman Aaron Schock has joined with Senator Marco Rubio to introduce a bill that would exempt the athletes from paying taxes on those medals. Joining me now on the phone from Washington, D.C., he'll soon wrap up and make it back to Illinois, Congressman Aaron Schock. Congressman, welcome back to Politics Tonight. It's always good when I have you here live, but we'll get you from Washington tonight. By the way, did you know, it seemed to be news to a lot of people that Olympians were paying taxes. Had you always known that, or did you just learn it?
No, actually, we just learned about it, that these, one-time honorariums that they get when they compete overseas, whether it be in London or in 4 years, obviously they'll be competing in Rio. There's small payments, $10,000 or in some cases $30,000 if they win a gold. In addition to the honorarium, though, Paul, they actually have to pay tax on the value of the medal. So if you win a gold medal, you actually have to pay tax just to take the gold medal home, because the value of the gold, our government right now says, well, that's a gift from the International Olympic Committee. Now, no other industrialized country treats their Olympians this way. Now, look, I'm not suggesting that Michael Phelps or any of the famous Olympians that get huge, contracts with Nike and Speedo and the like, I mean, they're going to make millions of dollars. They should pay tax on that income. They're going to be fine. But, we may have upwards of 100 Americans who get Olympic medals, many of whom's family have gone to great sacrifice and lengths to get them to the Olympics. They pay great honor and tribute to our country when they're there competing. And so for them to have to then pay a tax after they're done winning a silver medal or a bronze medal or a gold medal on the value of that medal to bring it back to the U.S. is just completely ludicrous. And that's why Senator Rubio and I think this ought to be a no-brainer that Congress ought to be able to get behind.
Yeah, and by the way, those gold medals, I guess they're really made of gold. I kind of figured maybe if we made them here, they're just gold covered or chocolate. I thought maybe there was chocolate in the middle of there. I didn't know. But here's the thing, and you actually answered about 4 of my questions in that answer, and I appreciate that. But look, I've got to take the other side, because I too feel that they're doing great things for the country. They're representing the country. The whole world is talking about Michael Phelps and Ryan Lochte. That's really great for us. But the other side to that would say, look, income is income. I mean, there's lots of people who get cash prizes for doing good deeds and doing good things who would have to pay taxes on it if they were being honest about it. So why exempt Olympians? Then don't you have to sort of look at a bunch of people who get awards for all sorts of really noble, worthy causes and say, and they shouldn't pay either?
Well, I think there are some exemptions for if we ever determine who it was that turned over the information on Osama bin Laden, the millions of dollars of award money that person will receive will be exempt from federal income tax. So not that person, not that I'm suggesting we ought to change that, but I'm just suggesting that, look, if we're going to give prize money to somebody who helps us find Osama bin Laden and not tax it, then perhaps somebody who can throw the javelin or do the best dive off the diving board gets a $10,000 honorarium from the International Olympic Committee. If other countries are not allowing or requiring them to pay tax, I think we ought to pay the same deference to our athletes. And the other thing is, many of these people go back to normal life. They're not from high-income homes, and they're not the Michael Phelps of the world. They're folks that may be great at kickboxing, and then they go back to their normal way of life. And the $10,000 or $20,000 prize money they get is really a boost to them and their family, and we ought to let them keep it along with their medal. by the way, without having to pay tax on it.
Well, I agree, and you're right. You did make the point that people like Michael Phelps, who will make millions and millions of dollars for a host of opportunities available, will of course pay tax on all that money. So we're not really worried about Michael Phelps in this situation. We're worried about a lot of those folks who, as you say, go back to their normal lives. But but I started to think about this, and I thought, look, if I have it right, people who serve in the military, who are in Iraq and Afghanistan, who make salaries, they do pay taxes on that, right?
They do. However, depending on when they're in battle, when they're overseas, some of that is exempt. But by and large, a military personnel do pay tax on their income, absolutely.
Yeah, and I guess that's where I was going with that, which is to think, I'm thinking if somebody's actually serving, and I don't know what the definition of in battle means, but if somebody's in the theater of war, if they're in Iraq, Afghanistan right now, there's a strong argument, hey, look, they're there, I'm not there. That would be a benefit we probably could give active military, might even boost the people who serve in the military or who want to.
Sure. Well, I think definitely the argument can be made if your income is from the military or from being an athlete, you ought to pay a tax on your income. But this is an honorarium that they get from the U.S. Olympic Committee. Look, employees of the IMF and the World Bank, American citizens who live in New York City that work for the World Bank do not pay federal income tax, even though they're American citizens and they live in New York. So there's all kinds of exemptions. I think what it does underscore, more importantly, is the need for comprehensive tax reform, which I think we're going to talk about at some point. But what we're simply saying is, look, we ought to send a message to the world. We ought to send a message to our Olympians that we appreciate what they're doing. We recognize all of them are not going to come back to the U.S. and become millionaires because of their sacrifice and hard work. And we're willing to let them keep their honorarium and the medal that they've earned competing without having to come back and pay Uncle Sam.
And tax-free. We are going to talk about other issues. One very quick question, though, before we go to break, which is, if this bill passes, it's not going to affect this year's Olympians. This year's Olympians will pay their taxes, right?
No, actually, it goes into effect as of December 31st, 2011, so it would affect the 2002 Olympians.
Okay, so it's retroactive.
That's correct.
Okay, well, then you've got a lot of happy Olympians who want to hear that.
Well, we haven't passed it yet.
That's right,
Paul,
okay. Well, you'll get that passed. You're not going to get mine. I'd like to see the folks who oppose that. All right, so hang with me, though, Congressman, because you're right. We do want to talk about taxes. You're very active in some of the tax breaks coming up. Got some Mitt Romney questions for you. He's going to hang with me. We'll be right back with more from Congressman Aaron Schock in a moment. If you want to talk to the Congressman, 877-358-2588. Call now. All right, we're talking with Congressman Aaron Schock, still on the phone from Washington, D.C. He'll be coming home soon enough for his summer recess. Promises to come in and join me. Aaron, let's talk a little bit about tax reform. A bill was passed today, a resolution was passed today, indeed, that's requiring Ways and Means to create complete tax reform, but next year. The truth is, you can't do anything until you know who the new president is and who's controlling Congress.
That's right. And the other thing is there's a lot of detail that goes into comprehensive tax reform, because you can't do corporate tax reform, which everyone agrees the highest corporate tax rate in the world is not something America should have or be proud of. So we all know, Democrats and Republicans, we need to lower that corporate rate. The problem is, if you just lower the corporate rate and get rid of a lot of the deductions and loopholes so that it's revenue neutral, then all your pass-through entities, your small businesses that pay their tax at the personal rate, would then have a higher rate than their C Corp, their big corporation competitors. So you got to do individual reform and corporate reform at the same time, which it takes more time. So we've had 23 hearings on the Ways and Means Committee to come up ultimately with our proposals for tax reform.
All right. Now, I want to ask you, because I want to talk about Grover Norquist for a moment. Did you sign the Grover Norquist pledge that you'll never vote for anything that raises taxes?
Well, I don't think it says I'll never vote for anything that raises
whatever
taxes.
It says.
But I did sign his pledge when I ran the first time. Questionnaires for, the teachers union and the chambers of commerce and all those groups.
But
when I ran for my second term, I haven't filled out anything my second term, and my point was, I've been in office now, I've voted on thousands of bills, and you can either support me or not support me based on my votes, not based on stated positions.
Okay, and the reason I ask you that, I don't really care about you and Grover, the reason I'm asking that is because, as you know, a lot of your colleagues are afraid of Grover, and so here seems to be the fix. Isn't it true that under his rules, if you just let all the Bush tax cuts expire at the end of the year, and then pass new ones, doesn't that fix the problem? That is to say, instead of renewing everything, let them expire and then pass new tax cuts for the middle class or whoever you want to pass cuts for.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what his rules are or aren't. I mean, I actually think that this whole idea that Republicans are scared of Grover Norquist is a cooked-up fallacy by the liberal left. I don't go away. I don't talk to members of Congress that are worried about what Grover Norquist thinks. The guy doesn't have any money. He doesn't have a PAC. I'll tell you, a group called Club for Growth actually has money and can do something. The labor unions actually have more money than anyone. So, I mean, Grover Norquist is not somebody who's deciding elections. He's not somebody I lay awake and worry about. Look, the Republicans, by and large, were willing to put revenue on the table last year with the grand bargain between John Boehner and Barack Obama. But when Nancy Pelosi walked in the room and said, we're not willing to do Medicare and Social Security reform, then Republicans backed off and said, listen, we're not willing to put revenue on the table if you don't fix the underlying drivers of our debt. We know in Illinois you can raise taxes till ad nauseum, but if you don't fix pensions and the underliers of the debt, of what's driving the debt, you're just going to keep throwing more good money after bad.
All right.
And that's what our concern is at the federal level.
All right. There's so much more to talk about to Mitt Romney. I want to talk to you about that. I'm going to get you on here to make this promise. When you come in town to your summer recess, will we get you here live?
Well, absolutely, Paul. I'd love to do it.
All right. I'm going to show you the videotape if you don't. Congressman Aaron Schock, Republican of the 18th District, Peoria area. Thank you, sir. Travel safely home. We'll see you again in studio soon.
Thanks, Paul. Have a great night.
You
Good to
too.
be with you.